Hello, my name is John Powell, editor of Graffiti and the Interim Director of Communication for the College of Liberal Arts and Social Sciences at the University of Houston. This month, we begin a new feature to the Discovery section of our electronic newsletter, one we hope you will enjoy and that will give you a better understanding of the research conducted by our faculty and students. It is appropriate that our first conversation is with John Antel, Professor of Economics and Dean of the College of Liberal Arts and Social Sciences. Dean Antel received his undergraduate degree in political science from the University of California at Berkeley in 1972. He received his PhD in economics from the University of California at Los Angeles in 1983. Before joining the University of Houston Economics Department in 1981, he worked as a labor and population studies consultant to the Rand Corporation. Dean Antel served as Economics Department Chair at the University of Houston from 1997 to 2002 when he became Dean. Dean Antel continues to teach and do research in labor economics, health economics, and applied statistics, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to the Discovery section of Graffiti.
Thank you, John.
Glad to have you. So let's get right into it. How does class research differ from what most people would think about research at a university? I think you mentioned in your dean's message the white laboratory coats and the bubbling beakers and those types of things.
Well, we have some people that engage in that kind of research, particularly in the psychology department and some of the research that we do that's affiliated with the Texas Medical Center in health research. We have a very excellent group of neuropsychology people that do actually laboratory research in different ways. Some of them actually working on tissue sections of dissected animals. We also do a lot of sort of classic research with human subjects in that area. Particularly, we do a lot of magnetic resonance imaging and when we study things like learning disabilities and other things like that. So there are areas of the research agenda of the college where we do things that are very similar to what you would think would be the bubbling beakers and white coats. But beyond that, I think probably the real issue or the way to think about research in class is it's so diverse. We have research in various other areas, particularly in the humanities and the social sciences, that are much different. Like, for example, I have a wonderful faculty member who's one of the world's most renowned historians of ancient Greece, and a lot of what he does to do his historical research is study ancient coins. And so he has an extensive collection of ancient coins, particularly Greek coins, but some Roman coins. And a lot of what he has to do, had to do in his career, is to educate himself about the coins and the chronology of the coins and where they came from and what Roman emperor minted this coin or that coin. So that's an example of a totally different research undertaking that we have at U of H. Other history, a lot of interesting things in history. One of my great associate deans, Dr. Kathy Patterson, is an Elizabethan British historian. And she goes oftentimes, at least once a year, to the British Archives at Kew, just outside London, and has to go through all these old city archives and records. And she always tells the story that when she comes out, her hands are covered with coal dust that is the residue from the coal oil-fired lamps where the previous sort of consumers of these archives, this data, this literature, had looked at these things, and oftentimes she has to wear gloves because these are documents that go back to the 17th century. So very, very diverse sort of group.
Public policy, the Center for Public Policy is another thing.
Public policy, that's sort of at another end of the spectrum, and a lot of what we do there is basic social science research. This comes out of various departments. The economics department, from which I originally derived, I was an economics professor, as you indicated. The political science department, the psychology department, to a certain extent, they work a lot on learning disability. But a lot of the interesting stuff that we're doing now in public policy research is coming out of the Center for Public Policy and the Center for Public History. Like, for example, the Center for Public Policy has just completed a research project grant from the City of Houston to study the use of tasers by the police department. And why are we interested in that? Well, because the city is concerned about maintaining the peace and the safety of the citizens, but also we want to avoid overuse. We're going to develop with the city protocols and sort of rules about how we would use the taser so it would not be abused. That's one issue. Another interesting area of research is from the Center for Public History, and we're doing a lot of research there in the infrastructure of the city. There is a group there that works on what we call public history, and it's really a history of business, urban areas, cities, history of governments from a very much sort of interactive and policy-oriented point of view about, you know, who has done what to solve their water problems or their urban transportation problems. One of our great historians, Dr. Marty Melosi, wrote a famous book called The Sanitary City.
Right.
And really basically what it is a long but very interesting book about the history in Western civilization from the Renaissance on about how urban areas and cities in the West have dealt with sewage. And it turns out to be a very fascinating topic, and he is an expert on that and is an area of urban infrastructure and has written on that.
So why should anyone care about, for instance, research we do in class? It doesn't cure cancer, it doesn't send people to the moon. What is it that is important to just the regular person in Houston or in the country?
Well, if we go back to like the taser study, it certainly directly affects the welfare of the citizens in terms of trying to find ways to, as minimally intrusive as possible, to enforce the law. And other things we do here in the School of Communications is an area called health communications. And as you know, we have the largest medical center here, not 2 miles away from the Texas Medical Center. It's a very multicultural, international institution like the city is. And so a lot of the work we do here at the School of Communications is dealing with multicultural communications. I can always tell a story about a lot of people that we've met and dealt with that come from Central America. It's not just a matter of a language, it's a matter of the culture. You know, we tend to think, most people tend to think as the police department or the city authorities as public servants and working for the people. Well, if you come from certain areas of South or Central America, that might not really be the working assumption. And so it's not just a matter of being able to communicate in different languages, it's really having a more deep and subtle understanding of the cultures and how people in these different cultures look at a physician or anybody in a position of authority. So it's much more subtle than that. It helps with in many areas. And I think also a lot of what we do enriches people's lives. For example, one of the amazing things about Houston, given everything else they have here, and what a great entrepreneurial city this is we really don't have a formal and history, sort of a city history group and what we're trying to do with the University of Houston through the Mayor White has started a Houston History Project, and Professor Joe Pratt in history is working on this with the city to really come through and build something that would eventually move into establishing a historical society for the city. It turns out a lot of people are just really interested about the history of the city. There is a lot of history here. We tend to be so much on the move and so entrepreneurial about and attending to what we're working on today in our projects. But there really is a lot of interest in where we came from and how we got here. It's an incredibly diverse history. And so the University of Houston is working with the community to try to build what would be eventually, or the equivalent to, a Houston Historical Society. A lot of other areas. Another interesting area is an area of research that we took up in response to the Katrina Rita storms. Mm-hmm. As we know, a lot of people were displaced from New Orleans, and a lot of those people from New Orleans came to Houston.
Right.
And Professor Carl Lindahl, who was in the English department, has undertaken a study that is also funded by the State Historical Association, and the Houston Arts Alliance has also contributed to this, to do oral histories of all these people that came from New Orleans, about their experience in New Orleans, their experience as displaced people moving to a strange community. And actually, he was working with people from the Smithsonian and the Texas Historical Society to do oral histories. And this is not just conversations about what happened to them, but it's stories, it's music, it's really a culture in sort of the broadest sense of the word that he is doing. We're recording this and archiving. A lot of it will go into places like the Smithsonian to record the experiences of these people, but also their reactions and impressions of what happened to them. So these are kind of things that we do that I think do affect people, and people are just interested in where we're going and what we're doing.
Well, the College of Liberal Arts and Social Sciences is the largest college on campus, the most diverse college, and our research is incredibly diverse and reflects the college and the city we're in. And I look forward in the months to come to find out some more about it and share it with them.
Absolutely. Haven't even had a chance to talk about the research I used to do and still do.
We'll bring you back.
Do that next time.
We'll bring you back. John Antel, Dean of the College of Liberal Arts and Social Sciences here at the University of Houston. I'm John David Powell. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, John.